Hey College Success, this is your video for week 6, which means we are quickly wrapping up the semester here. This is going to run from October 5th through October 11th. So we're going to jump in here. I'm going to scroll down and we've got week 6. We're going to be in chapter 5. So if you go into your materials folder, you'll have a link to the slides. So I'm going to go through the slides for chapter 5 here. So we start off with our scholarly article. I'm going to go right to the content here. Chapter 5 wants to know about the purpose of academic tasks. So whenever you are in a class, it's important to know why you have to take a certain test, make a project, write a paper. That's really important to know the why behind those things. And most of the time it's because there's either a program level outcome, which means in order to kind of be accredited, a certain program has to have a certain assessments along the way. And that trickles down to the course level. Certain courses need to have assessments kind of checked off so that students are, finishing these requirements and then able to get their degree. So part of that is an academic integrity. And academic integrity matters because, you want to make sure that it's you learning the information, you're not borrowing or cheating off of someone else. And it makes a big difference in the overall scheme of things. So what does academic integrity mean? Well, it means being honest in your learning, and part of that means avoiding academic dishonesty. And here are some examples. Plagiarizing is when you present someone else's work as your own. A very obvious example would be, just copying and pasting from the internet or printing out a paper and putting your name on it when you didn't write it, having a friend do your homework. Those are all different ways to plagiarize. You can also kind of unintentional plagiarize, meaning you don't quote your sources and maybe you didn't know that you were supposed to do that or it was unintentional. That's also a form of plagiarism, but that's why you want to be aware of how to properly do these things so you avoid that. And then cheating, again, is anything that gives you or another student an unfair advantage. So that could be something as simple as, you have a class on Mondays, Wednesdays, your friend has the same class with the same teacher on Tuesday, Thursdays, and your Monday, Wednesday student gives the Tuesday, Thursday student a heads up on what exactly was on a test that week. That's technically cheating. You're giving someone an unfair advantage. So avoiding those types of things are ways to stay academically honest. Other ways is, again, to know what it means to plagiarize, to cheat. Keep your goal in mind so that you're focused on your learning. Manage your time so you have enough time to study, to dedicate to reading and writing, and then use different resources as needed, and then make sure you know how to cite. That way you'll avoid unintentional plagiarism. So citing sources, all ideas should be cited unless they are original to you or considered general knowledge. So a lot of students will take an idea from a text and oh, that's a great way to explain this. I'm going to borrow this. I'm going to put some of it in my own words, but then they never cite the original source. That's still plagiarism. You need to give credit to the original source. There are lots of resources out there to help you with that. So one of them, I will often go to the OWL at Purdue. This is kind of a quick reference for me. I still use it, even though throughout my entire doctoral program, I had to cite constantly. I've been out of the program for a few years, so I still need to freshen my memory up every once in a while about the proper way to cite different types of sources. And so the OWL at Purdue is kind of my quick way to get there. And so this will go over just like an overview, and then there's actually a guide here. How do you cite when you're in text, if you use a quote or if you paraphrase? How do you cite when you're doing your reference list? Lots of different things there. Another one that I sometimes point out is Citation Machine, because it's kind of connected now with APA format. What you can do here, and I think there's going to be an ad, so I apologize. What you can do here is help build citations. So you can create a citation and it'll take you through some steps like what are you citing? Okay, say let's cite a journal article. You can search for it or you can enter it manually if you have all that information there, and it can help you kind of build that citation. Now, I always tell students whenever you use sources like this, I would still double check against the APA guides, because sometimes Citation Machine or sites like it don't necessarily get the italics correct, or maybe the spacing correct. So you just want to do a double check to make sure that the citation it kind of helped you create is correct as it relates to your APA, or for some of you in your field, it might be MLA citations. So making sure that you're aware of how to cite is important. Our digital library also provides resources and ways to help you cite your papers. Paraphrasing, which is part of kind of that big talk of citing, is when you put words into your, or excuse me, when you summarize ideas into your own words. So you read something, it makes sense, you put it into your own words, you've paraphrased. It's not just changing one or two words around and saying, oh, there, I paraphrased. And it's not just from a single sentence. It's usually from like a longer piece of text. You put it into your own words. Also with academic work, you may be, and if you haven't already, had to either write a paper or make a presentation. And so with a paper, part of the trouble a lot of my students will say, and I've heard this throughout the college, is just choosing a topic. Because either you're given too much freedom, or maybe you just don't even know where to start. So if you have the option of choosing your own topic, our chapter does go into some suggestions on how to do so effectively. Look at your table of contents, Google topics, talk with your professor, try to really land on a topic that's going to keep your interest, but also is in the scope of the paper. And then our chapter will talk about the writing process. In week 5, you guys looked at the Writing Center as your college resource. And so this is kind of like connecting back to that, because I'll tie that in a little bit here. But knowing the writing process, and this is actually going to be the basis of your discussion forum this week. So writing is a process. You can't expect to have your first draft be perfect. And so you're going to have to do some planning, whatever that looks like for you, brainstorming, mind mapping, outlining, getting your sources together. Then you're going to have to go to your writing, your drafting, your flow of your paper, your main points, your details, and then go through your reviewing, your proofreading, your revising, your editing. So some revision tips. You want to give yourself some time. You don't want to finish the paper the morning that it's due, because then you don't have any time to revise. You don't have any time to kind of look at the nitty-gritties. Edit is when you are really looking for like your spelling, your punctuation, your grammar. Proofread is when you're looking at the big picture to see if the organization is flowing, everything's on point with your thesis, if you need to add or take away sections of your paper, and then checking your citations. So you want to make sure you leave time for that. Our chapter also talks about presentations and the importance of making sure that you are prepared, because in many of your classes, as well as potentially in your work career choice, you're going to have to present. So the best way to combat presentation anxiety, which is very common, is to just do that. Prepare. Make sure that the first time you read off your PowerPoint is not in class, that you are preparing and practicing, whether that means in front of a mirror, getting note cards and practicing, getting a test audience, whatever you can do that also helps reduce anxiety. The golden rule it goes through is tell the audience what you're going to say it, and then recap what you said. You also want to make sure you engage the audience, maybe ask some questions, give them a little poll, start off with a story or a joke, something that's going to keep them engaged. And then if you are using like an actual PowerPoint or different visuals, our chapter does go through kind of these principles and ways to make sure that you are using visual tools to be the most effective they can be. All right, and then from here, the chapter starts wrapping it up by talking about test-taking strategies. So the first thing is you always want to know when you have a test coming up, what's the format going to be? And it's okay to ask, is this going to be short answers? Is it going to be essay? What's it going to look like? And so if you have a multiple choice test, there are different strategies, such as read the question first, covering the answers, and anticipate what the possible answers would be. So you already have in mind what the answer is. Read all your choices. Be careful, make sure you read them all. Even if you think the first or second one is the answer, read all of them. Throw out ones you know are wrong. Write on the exam. Skip difficult questions, because you don't want to eat up all your time thinking about one question when actually you still have 15 more to go. And then only change your answer if you have a good reason not to. We most often change a right answer to a wrong answer. So you want to only change if you know you were wrong the first time. So maybe a question later on the quiz or the test, spurs your memory and you're like, oh, I really need to go back and fix that one previous. Short answer and essay exam, so kind of a similar way to try to prepare for these. Read them very carefully. Make sure if you can, before the test, do some planning, what you're going to say, how you're going to say it, how you want to outline it. Leave yourself some time to proofread and make sure you're addressing the full question. And then some take-home and online exams. Often teachers will be a little bit more harsh with these because you have more time, you have more access to resources, and make sure that you plan accordingly. Technology isn't always perfect. And so if you have, this has happened in here, I have students who will wait until Sunday to complete their quiz, and then all of a sudden there's a technology issue, and there's not a whole lot you can do at that point. If you're waiting till 10 o'clock on a Sunday night and you have a tech issue, unfortunately, you're not going to be able to get that quiz in. So you want to plan accordingly, know what to expect, and make sure you're using resources in the proper way. So that is a run through of your chapter. So now let's talk about what you'll be doing this week. So if we get into our assignment folder, you can see here's our recap of what we're doing. Here's our assignment folder. For your discussion, as I mentioned, it's going to be on the writing process. So you can use those slides, you can use your chapter. You're just going to talk to me about what steps are involved in writing a paper. Now, what I often have students find is the most difficult part of this is getting it to 250 words, because we are so familiar in many cases with the writing process. And so you really have to go into detail to get to that 250 words or more. Make sure you talk to me about choosing topics, the planning part of the process, the actual writing, the proofreading part of the process, peer review, citations. Make sure you hit on all of that. And I still have a lot of students forgetting to go back in and respond to 2 classmates. So even if you're getting your attendance points for the week, if you are forgetting to go back in and respond to 2 classmates, you're only getting half credit for the actual forum points. So make sure you go back in and respond to 2 classmates. Your original post is due Wednesday, October 7th for week 6 attendance, and then respond to 2 classmates by Sunday. All right, your next assignment is called You Be the Judge, and this is connected to that academic integrity piece that we talked about in Chapter 5. So it's going to open up into 4 cases. And you can see the cases are rather quick. Each case gives a little scenario, and your job is for each case. So you're not just choosing one case, you're doing all 4 cases. So you're answering these 3 questions 4 times for each case. For each case, tell me, was there an infraction? Meaning, did the student cheat? Did the student plagiarize? Did the student have an unfair advantage? Or maybe you're going to tell me no, and that's okay. Whatever you think. Number 2, what should they have done differently? So in the scenario, maybe there wasn't an infraction, but you think maybe they should have handled it a little differently. Tell me that in number 2. Number 3, what should the consequence be, if any? Fail the assignment, fail the class, dismissed from the college. So again, you're answering those 3 questions for each case, and you can type it right there. You can go up and start typing your answers here, like underneath each case, whatever works for you. To assist you with this, if you think it's helpful, I put the academic honesty policy that our college holds. It'll open up to a PDF about 4 pages long, and it's going to talk about academic honesty and integrity and what happens if there's a violation. What does plagiarism mean? What happens, if the student is caught doing these things? How does that go through a reporting? And what should consequences be? So if you wanted to use that to kind of come up with, did the student actually violate the policy? What could a consequence be for that student? So that's for your Chapter 5 assignment. And you can, again, write it right on that document, or you can go in here if you would rather write your submission. You can do that as well. All right, your next assignment is your Chapter 5 quiz. So again, just like all the other quizzes we've done up to this point, answer in 2 to 5 sentences each. Some of these, again, are more than one part. Some students are missing a point or two just because they're not answering the full question. So like right here, your classmate is worried about committing plagiarism unintentionally. What advice can you give them to help avoid plagiarism? When do you need to cite a source? There are 2 questions in there, and you need to make sure you address both of those. So there are several like that. So make sure that you address each part of the question. Again, there are 10 questions in that particular quiz. All right, and then the last thing, our college resource reflection, you choose. So you have a choice. So disability support services, if you are a student who maybe was on an IEP or a 504, or maybe you're on a plan here at the college, maybe DSS will appeal to you. So you can go to the disability support services page and you can look and see, well, what exactly does that mean? What are some requirements? How do I receive services? What are the services that are provided? What's the handbook? So click around in there and get just a feel for what disability support services is. How could you benefit from it? Maybe you couldn't personally, but you just want to know a little bit more about it. The other option is military services. So maybe you are in the military, you're current or retired military. What does the military services office look like on our campus? And again, there's a lot of drop-down menus, a lot of information there. I would encourage you to scroll through there and find out more about that. The last one is our college store. So our college store, kind of look through and see, what does our college store offer? What is instant access all about? Because at some point, if you haven't already, you probably will run into this. How do you utilize? What's the point of this? What else is on here? So, click through there. So you're not choosing all three. Choose one. And again, do not summarize. Tell me how you could utilize that resource, how it could be beneficial, what did you learn, and then you can upload a document in there or you can just click on Write Submission, whatever, again, is easiest for you. Write Submission or upload. Okay, so as a review for week 6, chapter 5, oops, I clicked out of it too quickly. You are completing your discussion for the writing process by Wednesday for week 6 attendance. Responded to classmates by Sunday. You are also doing the You Be the Judge assignment, chapter 5 quiz, and your choice college resource reflection. Okay? Final project step 5 video will be uploaded this week. Hopefully you have started working on your final project. If not, please make sure you start very soon. We are in week 6 by the time you watch this video, which means your final project is coming up quickly. Your final project videos are in their own folder. As of right now, the directions are in there. Steps 1 and 2 video is there. Steps 3 and 4 video is there. I will be making step 5 available soon so you can look at it, and you'll see I even have like a review video. So please make sure you get started on that. One last thing, week 1 will be reopening this coming weekend. So October 9th, 10th, and 11th, you can see right here, it's already programmed and ready to go. October 9th, 10th, and 11th, week 1 is reopening in case anyone needs to make up assignments or points from that first week of the semester when so many of you were still getting used to Blackboard. If that could help your grade, please take advantage of that. I'll have that in the announcements to remind you. All right, hope everyone has a great week 6. Talk to you later.